When you want to be the best, you can't settle for the rest. For anything on iRacing, there's just one name you need: Maconi.
With the launch of Maconi Entertainment and Maconi Competizone alongside Maconi Setup Shop, we now provide the best of the best in setups, paint schemes, coaching, broadcasting, and event organization.
With cars across all 4 license classes, we have what you need to hit the track with confidence. Grab a subscription and save money while going fast at MaconiSetupShop.com/subscriptions.
And remember, at Maconi Setup Shop, there are setups, but your victories.
The second week dawns on the FF1600s schedule. It's another Monday evening, and you know what that means? This week we're following the Formula One Championship across the border to Austria for our second round of racing. I'm Howie Burrows, and I'm alongside Ron Marnes as ever. And we have a very, very big, very, very highly stacked SOF this week, Ron, for a very tricky track.
Oh, we have got a super tough track for these racers here today. The Red Bull Ring is a draft fest if ever you've seen it here in these Formula Fords. We saw that last season in the officials, and we're probably going to see it again this week. This track is a tough ride in these race cars. You got those long straightaways, got to keep these drivers packed in like sardines, and those heavy braking zones as well that just provide enough of a chance to try and get an overtake done. It is going to be a really festive race for us here in the broadcast booth.
Festive might be one way used to try and describe, but I quite like your euphemisms, what we might get, because last season, this was chaos on Earth. Only one race deep into the championship, and Lewis Rerrell showed up very much out of nowhere to claim the first win in a very, very close one to the line. But these races can be dirty and can be tricky, and what's going to be even trickier is the field we have today, a 5,000 SOF in this lobby, one of the highest I've ever seen in competition. Qualifying's just getting started. This is hardly one of the most complex tracks ever cooked, but these cars can make them tricky, especially with the off tracks and especially with the level of contact that may be expected.
Yeah, around this racetrack, you are going to see these drivers come to blows in many sections if they do. Turn 1, that's usually the spot where drama breaks out on lap 1. Turn 3, though, we saw it happen with the Formula One Grand Prix this past week, and we've seen it happen before, both in the sim and in real life as well. Won't expect that, but one section that was rather surprising in some of the past broadcasts I've done here at the Red Bull Ring over the past couple of weeks was Turn 4 around this racetrack. It is a very heavy braking zone at the end of that semi-long back straightaway here at the top end of the track. You go downhill off into that turn. It's a good overtaking spot, but it's also a section of track where if it goes wrong, it goes desperately wrong. So look out for Turn 4 maybe being a real trouble spot for these racers as well.
Look at the length of some of these straights. A Formula One car can manage these with no effort at all, but a good old Formula Ford is instead contemplating their entire life choices down the straight, and that's going to lead to some slightly bizarre moments. There's often a lot of heavy draft around here, and the pack often stays very, very close and tight together. And in open-wheel cars, a close-together pack can mean carnage, can mean the sort of incidents that would get a race cancelled in real life. But that's what we have on this quite back-to-back season, full of some of the most intense drafting tracks we've ever seen. This one could be the zenith.
Yeah, and looking ahead for the schedule that we've got for the rest of this Formula Ford schedule here for the FF1600s on the iRacing platform, Summit Point in 1 week's time. That's not going to be another draft fest. The old school American road course, that puts on some fun, but that is going to be a super draft heavy race as well. But looking through the rest of the calendar, I really don't think there's another track, with maybe the exception of VIR with that massively long backstretch and the also very long start-finish straightaway there. I don't think there's really any other racetrack that has just as much flat-out racing action as we will see here at the Red Bull Ring. It's fantastic from us in the commentary booth, but for these racers, it being an official series, you got iRating and safety rating on the line. You can probably kiss some of your safety rating goodbye heading into this race. These drivers definitely going to try and walk around on eggshells and try not to step on a landmine while also trying not to get their foot caught.
Well, thankfully for our drivers, our race in the VIR is going to be on a much shortened layout, but I'm going to propose to you Watkins Glen very much produces very similar racing in these very low downforce cars. I remember working on Skip Barber racing there, where it became basically the Daytona 500 all over again. We've got today to focus on, and another point of contention on this track are the off tracks, of course. Get one off and you are not getting a qualifying time set, and you have 17x to work with. This track is brutal on off tracks. Here's Matt Kendall, who should be finishing the first lap across the line. If my estimations are right, he'll set the pace for the rest of this lobby. And it's tricky to just use all of that off-track surface as much as possible and know the limit without going over. Here he comes.
Yes, that's a 142.655. Let's see how that will stand with everybody else setting their qualifying times here in this session. It's 8 minutes long. These drivers have 2 laps to try and get the job done, and really no opportunity to have a trip up. Track limits so important here, both in the sim and in real life. Gonna see that as well in the races. These drivers look to try and keep those incident points down to a minimum, and also try and keep the track surface clean. This is an old school track in the sense that you've got a bunch of gravel traps around it. Take turn number 4, for instance, just the sea of gravel on the outside. There's any sort of off-track excursions heading off through there, you're going to end up seeing a driver scattered gravel all across the exit of that turn, and this circuit will look more like a rallycross track than anything else. But here in qualifying, Fraser Smith, your pole sitter last time out at Alton Park, is currently in a very familiar spot, starting this race from the provisional pole as it stands right now.
A new driver just jumping into the pole as you speak. It's Jarno Markku has taken out a 142. Now, these tyres get significantly faster over the course of this race, and I'm keeping an eye on Fraser Smith here in order to try and compare how close they're going to go. He was fastest on the first lap around, our 5th highest iRating car. iRatings at the top of this lobby are at 7.1k. We even have Alex O'Grady at 8k. Our lowest iRating is 3k. On Dan Blake. Still undoubtedly impressive and undoubtedly more terrifying than me. Here comes Fraser Smith, who looks to be setting a faster time than Jarno Markku's current one right now. I think every time's going to come back down, and this is going to be an absolute slugfest.
Yeah, slugfest it will be, and even though it's good to start this race from the pole, I don't think it's going to make everything for you in this race. Really, if you start the final lap of this race at the front, I have a feeling you're probably not going to be there come time for the checkered flag. This will be a racetrack where you want to try and save up that run, whether you go for the move into turn 3 or go for it into turn 4. You want to save that opportunity, be the last person to speak when it comes to all of this. You know, back in my karting days, I always loved in qualifying sessions being the other driver to go out there for the last time. So nobody had anything to say. Nobody had any way to counter this. I think that's the way these drivers need to tackle this race coming up. You don't want to show your cards off too early. If you do, you're going to be in for a world of trouble. But if you can play that patient game and wait for the final moment to pounce, that's going to make or break your race.
Interesting of note, Lewis Werrell, last week's winner, is here again, but didn't set a lap, but a black flag out of pit lane and then never reset the car in order to stop it. Mikey Pollard got to go to P2 time with Fraser Smith in P1, and one of the last drivers across the line here is Andrea Bellotti, who uses all the runoff he possibly can. Got a 142.1 to beat, and it's going to be a 142.5. That's going to be a small jump up. We've got a starting grid to quickly run through while these drivers make me rush to the absolute minute, I think.
That's one thing with the standing starts here in this series. You have to just completely burn through that starting grid as quickly as we possibly can. I'll take the first couple of rows if you don't mind, Howie. We'll go through and let you know that Fraser Smith will start this race from the pole. Mikey Pollard will start alongside him in P2. In P3 and P4, it will be Jarno Markku. And next to Alex O'Grady in the number 1 car starting this race in 4th. In P5 and P6 on your 3rd row, it is going to be Matt Kendall and Frederick Sorley. And then starting right behind them on your 4th row, the starting grid will be Renz Brookman and Christopher Cash. And rounding out your top 10 here is going to be the 9th place starter of Daniel Tuss and your 10th place starter of Andrea Bellotti.
Only 4 more cars on the track. It's Peter Maddox, Graham Rory Hunt in 12th, Dan Blake in 13th, and last week's winner Lewis Rarrell, he did last the first at Alton Park on the first go, and he's going to try it again on the track this time. Drivers getting themselves ready to grid, and as I've alluded to a few times, this is going to be a tough one on the track. I suggest you stick with this pack as tightly as you can, and watch out for people not keeping their cars to themselves. These open wheel cars, they're really tough when they get close to each other, and one little mistake will send you flying over the line.
I think these drivers really need to just keep their nose clean. If they can go through this race without having to come into the pits for a small little bit of rhinoplasty to repair the front nose cones on these race cars, they're going to be good. Just keep it clean. To finish first you have to finish. I've read that in a Fortune Cookie before, and I really feel like that would be the winning strategy for these drivers. Don't get caught up in the smoke and the red mist here at the Red Bull Ring. Just keep it clean, keep it up towards the front, and be there at the end.
Well, our lights are on and they're going to go off very, very quick. 20 minutes will make 12 laps and they can be eventful. We are green. And it's a lot of single file running on the right-hand side. I'm noticing there Christopher Cash holding to the right. A bit of a move there from the one car in fourth, and he's already Alex O'Grady with a little bump into the rear of Jarno Macker. He's got away with it. Behind, we do have spins. That is Peter Maddox in the red car and Graham Rory Hunt in that blue car at the back.
Yeah, and Graham Rory Hunt, I believe, was the one that got spun around coming out of the first turn. A dramatic start for him as they had their way down to turn number 3 for the very first time. Mikey Pollard looks to hold on to that race lead for as long as he can. Christopher Cash looks like he was trying to get some moves done a little bit farther in the back of the pack. But here we go, out of that tight hairpin at turn number 3. These drivers looking to save up that run as Fraser Smith got to look to take the race lead from Pollard.
They've been sort of trading this a little bit throughout the first few turns. Everybody going for every inch of track. Smith has it over Pollard here, but it looks like Jarno Macker is getting himself in alongside as well. Gap starting to grow a little bit behind. No car was totaled in that opening melee. We do see Lewis Rarrell. He's already jumped up 3 places off the start, and he managed to make it last the first in a feat that even I missed last week around. It was spectacular at another draft track. If anyone could do it, it would be him again.
And I will say it's not 100% smooth of a start for the driver of the number 3 car. We saw that moment for Graham Rory Hunt heading his way through turn number 1, and upon taking a look at it from my perspective in the sim, it was actually contact with Werrell and Rory Hunt down into the turn. Werrell taking that inside approach down into turn 1, hit the curb, and bunny hopped into the side of the number 10, sending him around and putting him all the way down in last place. So if there's anybody who's not a fan of the driver who was able to win last time at Alton Park, is probably your now P13 runner of Graham Rory Hunt, as we got some racing at the front. Look at Alex O'Grady trying to get some moves done to 1.
O'Grady slets up the sling stream and make that word slingshot. We'll try that one again. Yeah, make that slingshot and we'll try again. But manages to sling his way around up into third. Mikey Pollard staring down the rear of Fraser Smith. And it's another big dive from O'Grady, and a big one. And that's going to force Mikey Pollard to back out. But he's going to try and take the advantage here and exit side by side. A little bit in and a little bit out. Speed's now kind of even, and that's not really going to be enough. They'll get alongside, but inside of this bend is O'Grady's. It's going to go down to bravery. And it looks like O'Grady's going to choose to back out of this one. I have a feeling drivers at the front are going to want to be trading their places rather than battling too much at this stage.
Yeah, there is no point battling tooth and nail and scraping and clawing for every single position that you can get, because in all of that, you're probably going to lose touch with the cars in front. If those two of Pollard and Alex O'Grady really start to battle hard at the start of this lap, you'd probably end up seeing Fraser Smith start to run away with things. But no, the strategy that these drivers need to keep in mind is just being there at the end. It may not be the longest race here at only 20 minutes in length, but you still got over 16 and a half minutes of racing action left to go. Plenty of overtaking opportunities between now and the end, and plenty of opportunities for the drivers around you and your competitors to make some sort of mistake. Just stick with it in this race. Don't get lost up in the drama and the chaos and the red mist, as I said right before we grabbed the green here at the Red Bull Ring. Just keep calm, keep patient, and be collected, and you'll be golden.
And indeed, not the aggressive move from O'Grady, but I think he's going to try it again down this straight. That is Werrell with the fastest lap. He hasn't gained more positions, but He's done so in the past. Rory Hunt sneaks past Dan Blake near the back of the pack. I think O'Grady's going to make the dive this time. He's done this once before. That's quite a big cook, though. It's a big enough cook to send him into the lead past 2, and quite a few on the right-hand side have had the idea as well. The two of Matt Kendall and Renz Brookman try sending up a pass on the inside. Brookman sort of ducks back out to the left down this straight. Now we're side by side for P1 again.
Yeah, O'Grady looking to make that move stick as they head their way out of turn number 4. Book it. He's through into the race lead. The side-by-side racing still going to continue involving Fraser Smith. This time it's Mikey Pollard trying to get moved on him around the outside into Power Horse turn of turn number 6. Yes, that is the real name of that turn. And these drivers looking to keep it rolling through there. Matt Kendall, I think, ran a little bit wide heading through that section of racetrack. Loses out on a tiny bit of time. He was a standout star at the beginning of this lap, but he's now starting to drop down. Maybe even losing a spot to Renz Brookman. He's side by side with him, heading his way out of turn number 8 into 9 in a couple of moments' time. This section at the end of this lap here at the Red Bull Ring, not a good spot to go side by side. One driver is probably going to end up going off the track if the other isn't painfully slow on that inside line. They single file out before they head their way off into turn number 10, the final turn around this racetrack. Alex O'Grady, though, was cooking with gas with that move to take the race lead.
I'm scared about the tangling up front this early. I'm scared about how aggressively they're driving each other. Maybe they had a plan that not even I have noticed, and don't even ask me to count what iRacing considers an off-track there, because that can be controversial around here, and we don't get the numbers until the very end of the race. Looks like this left-hand side has momentum this time, and they've completely left O'Grady out to dry, but he does like to dive bomb into here just a little, and he's just about going to clear O'Grady on exit. The battle between the two has slowed them down quite a bit, though, and Jarno Maku is in with the charge. This entire pack of, it must be 11 cars, could all be in for the shout. It's only really the cars from Rory Hunt back. That will be a problem. There goes Kendall, and there's a few others caught there. Frederick Surley, most importantly, in that pack. He's been sent back and around, and in fact, even more contact. That's Surley and Rory Hunt. They're going to be at the back of it all, and that's a meatball for Frederick Surley.
I don't think the driver, the number 12, was quite happy about that at all. It was a clumsy moment for all of those racers. Let's take a look at this replay as they head their way down the backstretch. Nearly 4 wide action and contact being made. That was Matt Kendall making contact with Rory Hunt, I believe, and all of that drama. Sorely getting a piece of that action as well. Actually, no, it was Christopher Cash that he made contact with. My apologies. And Graham Rory Hunt coming in, getting a piece of that drama with himself and Frederick Sorley. Let's take a look at another angle of this. This time, a little bit of a closer view of this drama. They touch, they bang wheels, and that's the moment that sends Matt Kendall around. You can see Sorley having to take evasive action, hits the wall on the inside, and then as they head their way, trying to build up some speed yet again, the damage on Sorley's car gonna take him out of this race along with Graham Rory Hunt. Matt Kendall very lucky not to make that 3-car stack up as they head their way through 4.
Now, this track can fit 4 Formula Fords going wide, but I'm not ever really sure it's a good idea unless you're absolutely desperate, because that's how it kicks off every time. We're doing a 3-wide pass into turn 2, and a lot of drivers going to scatter as a result of that. We have meatballs for Rory Hunt as well, by the way. They're going to have to serve it in the pits with their fast repair, but they're well and truly out of this chase. And this pack is already looking like they're getting impatient to me. They're already looking like an absolute swarm. The car in the middle there, Jarno Maku, just got left out to dry in the middle. And a little bit mob chooses to back out of it on this next entry. Really could be anyone's game all the way up to the end. A dramatic move there from that car back down. That was Mikey Pollard. He sort of swings across the track. I was worried that was a wreck waiting to happen.
Yeah, honestly, I think even with that moment heading down the backstretch off into turn number 4, these drivers are still playing with fire. It is so intense at the front of this field. I feel like it's only a matter of time before someone starts to boil that battle over. Look at that, they swap sides like crazy down to 9. Holy cow.
O'Grady sending out 2 huge blocks, and have you noticed a certain white Red Bull car belonging to Lewis Werrow in all the chaos? He's joined the pack and he wants to make it last the first again. Not even halfway. He's sending it 3 wide. He'll have the inside line into turn 1. O'Grady ducks back in, and it's a big lead and clear for Lewis Werrell. Last to lead again. The race isn't over, not by any means, but he is just well and truly picked and choosed his way up the field. I also see Daniel Tufts has made up quite a few places, and he will be looking to join this battle anytime soon.
Yeah, Daniel Tufts, Jarno Marku, and Renz Broekman were all 3 wide, heading their way off into turn number 1 as Werrell, O'Grady, and Smith were going 3 wide in front. It was a 6-pack of Formula 1600 cars as they head their way down to turn number 1. We ride on board with the back of Werrell, getting a nice bump there. Oh, we can see the foot cam there from Alex O'Grady. Not sure if that should be shown on YouTube, but nonetheless, a driver, the number 1 car, still holding on to P2, wants to find any way in the book to jump his way up into the race lead, but Werrell putting on another stunner of a performance here in the Formula 1600 official series, jumps his way up into the race lead after starting in last. Has it been a 100% clean run to get there, but with some drama going on all around this pack, he was able to pick his way through the smoke and the drama to jump his way up to the lead.
Unfortunately, we just got demonetized there by the gearbox camera. It shouldn't be showing dozed in front of an impressionable audience.
And we're off the air.
Halfway through the race, like 6 out of 12 to 10 minutes to go. And I did notice that one car of O'Grady delivering a bit of a bump draft, and I do not usually think you want a bump draft in a Formula car, but I guess if there's no wing to shatter and you hit them exactly right, it somehow perversely becomes a strategy again. I mean, we should be saving that sort of stuff for the cars with defenders, I think, but Alex O'Grady, very happy to give his possible teammate in arms here a little bit of a push down as Lewis Werrell sits up top, and I noticed that Mikey Pollard, no real incident, but he's well and truly lost his pack after all his battling early on. They're going to need to work together, Bellotti and Cash, in order to get further up the road, because O'Grady, that's definitely a deliberate push. He now gets out of line, 3 wide, Daniel Tufts, dare you to make it 4. Not quite. Fraser Smith comes to challenge. Here he comes. Here comes Tufts.
Right as I saw those racers battling as hard as they were off into the turn, I was thinking that Daniel Tufts was going to try and slip through, and look at now where he finds himself involved in this battle. P2, make that P3, probably got to be P4, potentially P5, as here comes O'Grady on the outside of him. Daniel Tufts with a slide into turn number 4. That could have ended in disaster as they had their way out through the hairpin. They're 3 wide coming out of the turn, running on board with Daniel Tufts. He is in the middle of a sandwich with himself, Alex O'Grady on the inside, and Jarno Marku briefly made a 3 wide out of the turn through turn number 5. It's Werrell holding on to the lead in front of Fraser Smith, but this battle up in the front is pure unbridled pandemonium. As I said a little bit earlier on, these drivers still playing with fire even after the drama a little bit earlier on.
I am horrified. This is like a horror movie starting to develop. I don't want to know what word's going to be said at the end of this if this keeps up going. We've kept it mostly clean. And I say mostly because you can't get out of here without any incidents of the kind. But up the front is where there's the most intensity of it all. Lewis Werrell leads heading into lap 8. With a big lead down the straight, and I think his pushing buddy Alex O'Grady is now quite a bit out of line. Daniel Tufts is sort of holding up a big pack that could do something unpleasant into him, but he's not going to quite happen. Lots of very big wide moves out from Jarno Marku. Have to watch the 17x disqualification limit. It can crop up on you here, and it can come out of nowhere. For now, they're getting closer and closer and racing more and more intensely every lap. Honestly, Ron, I'm scared. Hold me tight.
I am absolutely petrified as well. These drivers still dicing every single time they have the opportunity to, whether it be down to turn 1, turn 3, turn 4, turn 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12. Doesn't matter. Even with 10 turns around this racetrack, these drivers will find 12 opportunities to go side by side. So here they go. It's a 2x2 pack. It's a 4. Contact being made between Smith and Werrell. That's going to send Smith a little bit wide. That could have ended so much worse than it already did. They get through that turn cleanly. We're getting to crunch time in this race. Less than 7 minutes left on the clock. Side by side as they head their way down into turn number 6 and 7. But I think this battle, someone is going to fall out of this. Now, whether it be for an incident, whether it be for incident points, or whether they just get struck by an asteroid remains to be determined. But either way, I feel like something will have to break here soon. These drivers can't be battling as hard as they can from the start of a race all the way through to the finish and not have to pay the consequences for it. head our way down that start-finish straightaway. Here comes Fraser Smith trying to get that move done on the inside of O'Grady. That may be a 2-for-2 deal. There we go. 2-for-1, my apologies. Into the turn. Not going to be able to get that move done, but contact being made with himself and Werrell. They got a little bit of lap traffic farther up the road. That, I believe, is a duo of Graham Rory Hunt and Frederick Sorley. They are 3 wide coming at turn number 1 up the hill into 3. 3 into 3. Let's see how it works, Howie.
Oh, we're going to go 5 wide? We could have almost gone 5 wide. And I must say, that corner we saw, the little contact and the slip up, we've seen 2 slips in a row on and 2 fantastic saves. In fact, that probably just about rescues the situation. Just earlier showing that advertiser-friendly rear cam when it allowed us to see the bump drafts in action. They are happening, but I have a feeling like teamwork's going to start to disintegrate here. Jarno Maku leads the field for now, but it chops and changes every little moment and every little lap. I wouldn't count on the leader now being able to run away with anything as a power limited car. We're 3, almost 4 again. I'd like to stick this entire race on the chopper cam now and just watch how these drivers tangle with each other down to the end. Every lap that counts down, the pressure boils up and up. A little bit more contact there. Pushing Werrell right. They're keeping it together. They're still bumping and banging. They're still bumping and banging. And that is Werrell sent to the back and sent out of the race with that wheel damage.
Yeah, that car is done. That left rear completely broken off that car. So now there were only a whole lot more cars left in that battle. The top 7 still covered by a second and a half with 4.5 minutes left to go in this race. It is still anybody's battle to win. Fraser Smith could even make a come up there. Not sure what sort of damage he may have on that number 8 car. Potentially some wheel damage may hurt his handling heading all through this very twisty racetrack. That's the thing with the Red Bull Ring. You've got a lot of turns here. Even though you only have 10, you spend a lot of this lap turning, but when you aren't turning, you're going flat out and you are enjoying the slipstream benefits. We may see a fight between Tufts and Brookman. This will be music to the ears of Jarno Mark, who's going to try and jump out into a bigger race lead than he already has. Down to the turn. Here comes a dive from Brookman. There's the defense from Tufts on the outside. Got to keep the momentum rolling, and Brookman may potentially be at risk of losing out on another spot to Alex O'Grady.
Jarno Maku is seeing exactly what he wants to see here as he just gets to see the battling happening behind him. The gap half a second. If you can keep people in that bubble because they're battling behind, you can make this win free and easy. Now, let me tell you, I just heard some driver complaints on the radio about that crash. We'll try to get a closer angle of it, but those cars seemed like they were stuck to each other like glue, and I'm surprised that damage actually destroyed that wheel. But that the first challenge has been diffused, and those points have been sent into the bin. Tufts using the gravel. We have to be a bit careful about DQs now. We're getting quite close to the limit, and I have a feeling like if someone hits it, they're going to get abducted by a UFO very quickly.
Let's see how it shakes out in the final 3 minutes of this race. Daniel Tufts getting that move done from Brookman to remain in second, but the fighting is still not over. All of these racers have some speed. Frederick Sorley, after getting involved in some drama earlier on in this race, he's slotted all the way down in P13, just set the quickest lap of the race last time by. So even though he may be down, he is most certainly out of it in terms of battling for the win, but these drivers still have pace all throughout this racetrack. This was a track we saw used last season, so I think it's not wrong to say that these drivers have experience with it, doubly so since we're at the very end of the iRacing week, going to be switching off to week 3 here in a matter of hours time. So these drivers using all those opportunities they've had to learn thus far this week to get those moves done, as here's a move from Tufts to jump into the lead.
3 wide going in, and it's a different 3 wide coming out. I think Mikey Pollard's right back in this chase as well. You've sort of seen the drivers behind slowly creep up and up and up as they realize this is where they need to be. Daniel Tufts leads the road, but a couple tricky corners with no grip coming up. These have been the hardest to handle. These cars through the rear, loves kicking its way out, and the side-by-side running likes to threaten. We're good for now. I think this could become a drag race to the line in a lap and a half as we're about to come see the white flag. It will likely be Tufts or Brookman leading us into it, but I don't know if you want to be first starting that final lap. Oh, there's a bit of contact. Just a little bit more. They're sending Brookman well back. Oh, Tufts is going to enjoy that for his position, but I think Brookman's going to be very, very frustrated with being pushed down the road at such a vital time. And there's going to be some real tangling among these drivers.
You know, if I had to pick the spot to be in, I'd probably say I'd want to be in either P2, P3, or P4. I wouldn't want to be in the lead. I wouldn't want to be farther back than fourth because you will have to deal with a hornet's nest of your own as they take the white flag. Daniel Tufts leading in at the white. Let's see if he's going to lead at the checkered. I wonder, had this game of leapfrogs going to work for him? He's probably going to get passed down to turn number 3 as that's a move from Fraser Smith on Jarno Marku into turn number 1. Tufts is probably going to get jumped into 3. Let's see if he'll be able to re-jump into the lead through 4.
This is about being in the right place at the right time more than it's about being the absolute fastest. O'Grady has that outside line here into what I consider this to be turn 2, biblically accurate. Tufts are going to back out of it for now. O'Grady holds the lead, a big train behind Fraser Smith and Jarno Marku, choosing not here to go back-to-back on each other. Too wide on each other here is going to slow down Tufts just a little. O'Grady still in a good position, and there's a big dive up the inside from Fraser Smith. A little bit of contact, it's slowed him down. It's not taking anyone out of this race. I think O'Grady has the ticket that he really, really wants here, because if this battling continues, this is an uncontested win. But the moves into these final 2 braking zones are going to be some of the most desperate I've ever seen.
Oh, that most certainly will be down into turn number 9 and 10. If anyone can get a move done through here, it will be astonishing. I think O'Grady's got this in the bag. Daniel Tufts just has too much drama behind him.
Jarno Marku disqualified for track limits on the final few turns of the track. Just wanted to call that out for you. You can let us know what happens on the line.
They head their way out of the turn. It's O'Grady grabbing the win. Daniel Tufts at P2. Holy cow, though. What a race.
Just enough conflict behind to stop that from being a drag race to the line. Some controversy, some flashpoint, and yes, a last-second disqualification. That was not a network issue. We got a little bit to review at the end of that race before we go on to replays, I think. But that was a bit less explosive than last time around, but it still was plenty explosive.
I think the main explosion and all that, I can't even say it was a full-on explosion. I think it was just a firecracker going off, was a moment involving Smith and Tufts down into turn number 4. It took them out of the battle and resulted in them still finishing on the podium, but not grabbing that win. Instead, it's Alex O'Grady winning over Tufts in front of Fraser. Those 3 drivers complete your podium. Rens Broekman, though, put on a rather hard charge right at the end of that race to make his way up into 4th at the end of it all. Mikey Pollard rounds out your top 5. It's Christopher Cash in 6th, Andrea Bellotti in P7, Matt Kendall in 8th, Dan Blake finishes this race in 9th, Jarno Marku getting disqualified right towards the end. Tough break for the Finnish driver. He'll round out your top 10. Peter Maddox, who's involved in some drama a little bit earlier on in this race, is placed in P11. Graham Roy Hunt and Frederick Sorley both end up 1 lap down after some big drama of their own, and Lewis Werrell, the only driver to pick up race-ending damage throughout that race. It was side-to-side and wheel-to-wheel contact through turns number 7 and 8 that took him out of this race. But Howie, we have a lot of stuff to take a look back on there at the end.
We're going to take a look at Lewis Werrell's car here in contention for the lead in a chase cam you'd never seen. Or a little bit of network on that contact. Then that's very real contact. Still, sort of no harm, but as he comes over the curb, I just think he just sort of loses control just a little bit. I sort of want to see the roll bar of that one last time. I think that could have been what happened. I think being pushed over the curb might have affected his re-entry onto the track and affected that. Let's take a look on board.
I wonder whether or not it was a case of like Tony Hawk's Pro Skater 2 picking up a skate through there. You can see the contact was made already into the turn. Gets a little bit sideways, more contact being made. I think it's a case of the iRacing glue. Those cars were stuck together as a result of all that. That's exactly what happened. Both of those drivers stuck together like they're attached by the hip. And unfortunately there for Werrell, that's going to come out with him losing out in that dramatically. You can see that's when the contact's made. And after that, these cars, they are not independent. They are not even controlling each other. It's just basically like the iRacing gods and the iRacing code is treating these cars like puppets.
I think there's lethal damage to the car already at this stage. Look how he cranks the wheel and it's going absolutely nowhere at all. And that's going to stick the 2 cars together for a big wreck. One more little bit of contact I wanted to take a look at was Daniel Tufts on the last couple laps. Didn't really affect the race, but this really kicked Renz Brookman out of the podium and out of a charge for the win. Oh, it's just a little accident into the rear, and is a good save to keep that together.
And I'm looking back on that incident with Werrell. I'm not sure whether or not there was lethal damage sustained in all of that. I'm looking at the suspension. It looks rather good. It just looks like something is messing with that car from the outside perspective. That's a bizarre incident, but it wasn't done in terms of the moments. Renz Brookman really getting shown the door by just about everybody as he headed his way off through the mid-sector right towards the end of this race. I think that stack up and that small little gap that we were able to see up towards the front of the field could have been part of the reason why we only saw two drivers really squabble up for that battle for the race win at the end of it all. It was just a battle between your race winner at the end of it all of Alex O'Grady and Daniel Tufts battling for it at the end. Outside that, though, no one really could get close enough to battle hard.
Here's a disqualification from Jarno Marku. It was due to happen at some point to somebody, and I think, was it that car contact? That car contact would have done it. Screen goes black because the car has disappeared from the circuit. And that marks a race. I want to see if there's any drivers that want to talk to us, but trust me, very few always want to talk to us after Red Bull Ring races. I'll put out a call.
We have free snacks here in the broadcast, in the green room. We've got free snacks in the green room. Drivers, come in and you can have them.
Yeah, I'll just transmit them virtually over the internet for you. There was a bit of discussion in the server very briefly after the fact where Errol says, kind of thought it was his fault in the moment, and then second viewing just thinks it was on him. Got a little bit locked onto the other car with no way out. So that's how that goes. Sometimes it gets explosive. There was a bit of a mic outburst in the moment, which it can be frustrating. It can be very, very annoying to get taken out of a battle like that. But these races, these cars do get ridiculously close and ridiculously scary. Just going to keep an eye on if anyone joins the waiting room. But until then, these should be our current championship standings. I'm doing my best to calculate. And it would put Alex O'Grady ahead for now. Renz Brookman, with consistent finishes, would take P2. Werrell in third, Cash in fourth, Bellotti in fifth, Fraser Smith in sixth. You've noticed here, though, that I have a feeling that our winner last week, Lewis Werrell's, just dropped off the face of the planet as a result of that back. Oh, no, never mind. I can't read words. He's literally third on that stack. Third on that stack because of a big win in the first week. Of course, there's 50 points for a win and 40 for second in the system.
Yeah, so that's a very good result for Lewis Werrell, even though he had the troubles here today, still finding himself in P3 with still a lot of races left to go from this championship. Have 10 more now between now and the end of the season at Summit Point in 1 week's time. That is going to be a super, super enjoyable race. I said how old school of a racetrack that is. It's old school in its design. It's old school in the action that goes on there. And talk about another Slipstream Fest. Holy cow, we may end up having a 3-wide photo finish there. I would not rule it out at all.
All right, I've given people enough time for their call. I'm afraid I'm going to have to cut it short on that rather than waiting for hours. So, any last thoughts on this race before we move on to Summit Point, which is a bit of a rookie classic? Don't mind the
Summit Point, I may be... Yeah, quite all right. Summit Point, it's a track that I personally like. Never got the opportunity to run there myself in real life, but I've done plenty of broadcasts here on the sim, done plenty of laps there in the sim as well. It is an iRacing standard track. Pretty much everybody at some point in their iRacing career has run around there. These drivers are going to have some good experience. I'm expecting a pretty good turnout there as well. I've had some pretty high SOFs up to this point here in these broadcasted races, so I'm expecting the same fantastic racing action and another Slipstream Fest in 1 week's time.
Okay, so, I gave people a last call, but then, as always, someone has to try and upstage me on that last call, so I'll give our race winner of Alex O'Grady one last chance, I think, just because a race winner probably deserves the privilege before we wrap up the show. Alex O'Grady, winner of a tough race out here on the track. You had a number one I-rating to claim. How scary was that run throughout?
Yeah, I mean, that was good fun there. I really just stayed out of trouble and try not to crash. Because when Lewis got there, he ended up causing some chaos and crashed with Fraser. And actually, the whole race I had quite bad damage on the front because at the start I went over Jarno. and then it was just really hard to hold on to anyone. I had to be in the slipstream. So yeah, it's just really difficult to try and stay in that front pack and make sure on the last lap I had slipstream to overtake, and managed to execute it quite well. Went round the outside of the hairpin, and then they started battling behind, and then at that point I knew I had a big enough gap to win.
You're the only driver on the grid I see regularly bump draft in a Formula car. So that seemed like a little bit of bravery, but seemed like it was maybe a little bit necessary as well. So what else do you have to learn when driving in the pack like this?
You have to be quite aware of everyone. You have to be looking in your mirror. You have to make sure you're leaving enough room, because it's very easy to, not leave enough room and go over the top of someone. So you just need to be aware of your surroundings and pick your moves and make sure you don't put yourself in a position where you can get sent off. That's the main thing. So it's just really important, especially on a track like this, to leave room and stay in that front pack to make sure you have the best chance possible on the last lap.
And just before we wrap up the show, just on time, in fact, Alex O'Grady, just in time, do you have any other thank yous or shout outs?
No, I think that's about it. Thanks to you guys for streaming it. It was great fun.
Well, that's Alex O'Grady, our race winner. And that marks the end of the show, which I'm not going to delay on for a moment longer. Thanks to everybody for watching at home. Thanks to all of the racers. And we wish you a very, very good racing week ahead down the line, of course. A big Monday, big week. It's always exciting out there. See you around.